Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another Talisman Digital 5th edition developer stream. We're doing 2 in 1 day because it is launch day for the Reaper, which is quite exciting. And yeah, Rainbow Slinky's just asked, hope the launch has been going well, and it has. We've had a huge wave of people. I think there was what we suspected has happened, which was we suspected that there was a group of people who were excited for 5th edition, but were waiting until we started rolling out remastered classic expansions to see like how we handled it, how that played, what that looked like, and I think a lot of people have sort of taken the plunge at this point, which is really nice to see, because I think we launched digital 5th edition and part of us knew like just the base game on its own is still a full good experience, but people have been spoiled over the last 11 years with all the expansions that you can have for Talisman at this point. So yeah, it's really nice to see how many people are getting in on 5th edition, and yeah, it's launch day, so let's play some Talisman. Let's continue the game that I was on. That seems like that's a good idea. Hey Geeky Chappy. Yeah, I don't think you tuned in for the morning stream, did you, Geeky Chappy? But it is nice to see you. A second Nomad stream in 1 day. That Nomad OBS working overtime on launch day. Exactly. It's not just the OBS that's working overtime. It's a busy. It's been a bit of a mad. Oh, it's weird because it's been. In some ways, it's been mad in the way that every single time that we launch something is mad, because we're such a small team. Like, it's hard for it not to be mad and a lot, because it's not like we've got a lot of people that we can bounce off and rely on, and if bugs or issues come in, we've only got a small team that we can talk to about that. But in a lot of ways it has been not manic. Like, it's been oddly chill, which is good. Like, I'm not complaining, but it has been weird. Like, I remember when we launched 5th edition. Is it just me, or can I barely hear you? Let me see if there's a way I can do this better. Properties. Should. Let me see if there's anything I can do just to increase my volume. Right. Is that any better? Or is that still a little bit out? Because I know that I'm not always the best with recognizing when my audio needs a bit of tweaking. New barrier spell. Let's roll the dice. Yeah, I might just need to speak up a little bit more. No, I missed the morning stream. Tuned in as you were wrapping up. Well, it's launch day, so if there's ever a day when you can stream twice, it's gonna have to be launch day. Let's see if we can take on this Lord of the Pit. Let's fight with craft. All right, let's have a tasty little fight. Always good to have a release that is not as hectic as major releases tend to be. Should have re-rolled that. Should have re-rolled. Let me see if I can decrease the game audio a little bit. Can someone confirm whether or not they can hear me all right? Just want to double check. All right, let's move that creepy Grim Reaper. You can go right in between you two. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we've actually, the day has been going quite well. Just in terms of like listening to feedback, listening to what everyone's been saying about the game, and the expansion. It's been good. I have had a couple of people on Reddit and social media and on the Discord. You're still a tad soft, but more audible. Trying my best to make sure that everyone can hear me. Yeah, we've had a couple of people on Discord and Reddit actually say that. Is there anything I can do about that? Don't want to do that. Even then, even if I get a 6, it's still a standoff. Fuck it. Oh. It was bad odds. It was bad odds. What's the remastered expansion, new content or graphics upgrade? So, good question. Majority of it is actually bringing it graphically so it matches 5th edition. So obviously, anyone that's seen the different artwork between 4th edition and 5th edition knows that there's actually been quite a lot of changes to how the game looks. So our team put a lot of effort into making sure that the remaster matched the new art style of 5th edition. But it wasn't just, oh, we'll put a new coat of paint on it, job done. What we've done is we went through all the different cards that are in the original 4th edition expansion and looked at all the characters as well and went, okay, do these still work in the 5th edition rules? Do these still do what they should do, and are they still as effective, or have some of them been, do they need adjusting because of the rules changes? So for example, the Sage in 4th edition, you can ignore the result of your first die roll and roll again. However, in 5th edition, there's the new rule around spending a fate to be able to move. So we had to think about, okay, how is that going to work with the new fate rule? You know, what order do we want to let people do that in? So it's not just a straight port. It is here's what the Reaper would be like if it was made for 5th edition. So in terms of new content, it's still all the old cards that you'd expect, all the classic cards. It's going to be one of them. Nope, that's a base, so not even a good example. Getting 3 gold though. And of course, we've got the Reaper NPC as part of the expansion as well, which is like one of the standout parts of the expansion. And the alternative ending, which I'm playing with right now, that's Macabre ending. So yes, it'd be disingenuous to say, oh yeah, it's entirely new content, but the time and effort that we've put in to make the 5th edition version of the Reaper distinct from the classic edition is still significant. And also, something to bear in mind, I mentioned this in the previous stream, is we now have the deck editor, which is exclusive to 5th edition. So it's something that we always wanted to do in Talisman, but because of technical issues, we were never able to do it in the old version of Talisman. So for anyone that doesn't know, basically in 5th edition, you can fully customize your adventure deck, your spell deck, your warlock quests. You can add cards, you can take them away. So if you love seeing a certain card, or a card's really annoying and you don't want to see it in your game ever, you can build your own custom decks with multiple copies or less copies of whatever you want. And of course that extends to the Reaper as well. So you can now go into the Reaper expansion and say, oh, I really like saber-toothed tigers. I want there to be 10 saber-toothed tigers in the deck, and I don't want some of the more annoying spells or some of the spells that our playgroup really doesn't get on with. So yeah, it's that feature alone means that you have much, much more that you can do with this expansion in 5th edition than you would have been able to do in the old version of Talisman Digital. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Rule Decks community come up with, because that's the thing, Well, I'm going to learn my lesson and not reroll. Must be the Grim Reaper, it's attracted by loud noises, that's why Tom is softly spoken. It's true. It's those big ears that he's got, you see. It means that he can hear for miles. Also, hey Lord Dragonic, thanks for tuning in to the second developer stream of the day. Right, where we got the night going. The knight is actually doing quite well. But is he going to lose his riding horse? That is the question. No, he's not going to lose anything. All right. Everyone else seems to be doing quite well. I've said this multiple times on previous streams, but I feel like when I'm trying to keep up with chat and talk about the game and also keep an eye on what's happening in the game, sometimes it gets a bit much. You know, boo-hoo, poor me, but that's my excuse and I'm sticking with it. Checking what's coming up. Where are you moving the Grim Reaper? Grim Reaper at the tavern. Nice. Prophecy. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, definitely not because this game is going badly for me. Definitely not. Let's actually. What should we call this? What should we call this? Streams are cool. Just stream are cool. Cool. Let's put ourselves together a custom deck. So I think what I'm going to do is, because this is the kind of deck that I want to add to the base game without adding the Reaper, I'm just going to get rid of everything. And instead of playing with the Reaper as an expansion, the deck editor means that basically if I want to, I can just pick and choose which cards from this expansion I want to add to the adventure deck. You know, like if you were playing the game physically, you wouldn't have to pick up the entire expansion and bring it in. I know that's something that people have sometimes said about Classic Edition. They find it annoying that like there's certain cards that they do and don't want from certain expansions. Like, well, I don't want to turn on the entire expansion at once. So thanks to the deck editor, you can do that. So, do I actually want... so I could just put in 10 copies of Carnival if I really wanted to. So then we've got loads of Carnivals just swinging around the board, but let's see. Place it placed on the board, close up shop and pack off the discard pile. See, that could be quite interesting. I could put in multiple copies of this into the adventure deck, purely just to make it so that the board stays clear all the time. I'll put in some demigods. Could make it so it's constantly earthquaking. Also an option. Let's put in one each of the elixirs. Gargoyle, Genie. What do I actually want to include? Let's make things a bit tougher. Let's put in some strong enemies, because I think that's something that a lot of people, flying carpet racing, put in 10 carpets. Not a bad idea. See, you can do the most laps around the game. Let's put in some golems. Ooh, that'd be interesting. So I could put in a bunch of spirits and copies of the Gathering, so that there's essentially like a roaming gang of spirits that just keep going around the board. Interesting. That might be worth thinking about. Yes, I can edit the spell deck as well, which is quite good. So obviously I've got the cards that are in the base version, but if there's any extra spells that I want specifically to add, let's not do the end turn ones. They're a bit the summon one's quite good. Let's put in some. Let's get things a little crazy. Let's. Do I want to put in some different warlock quests? Let's make it so the only warlock quest that you can do is defeating enemies. So make it a much more combat focused game of Talisman. Because like obviously you can put in whatever number you want, so if you want it to still be possible to discard one fate, you can just put in one copy. So now we have a deck where 6 times out of 7 you'll get the defeat one enemy, and then every now and again you'll get discard one fate. So like, see, there's loads of options for customization. But no, I think we're going to go with letting people swap around. And have we got any spirits that are worth putting in? Let's put in a bunch of mummies. Right, so we're going to have a roaming, ever-changing band of mummies that's going to just keep roaming around the board, which is an interesting way to play Talisman. Let's see how that goes for us. Odyssean, AUW, can't wait for Woodlands and Ancient Beasts. Where's that Reaper? Creepy. Stick a ring. Yeah, can't wait for Woodlands and Ancient Beasts. Yes, those are two of the expansions that we know are quite high on the community requests in terms of things that people want. Like, we've obviously got a lot of information about what expansions are most often enabled because we've got access to that information, but we also keep a log of what expansions are the most popular with players, because even if an expansion like Ancient Beasts doesn't really get played with... This is rude. Just a side note, this is rude. Even if a deck like expansion like Ancient Beasts doesn't get played with a huge amount, we know that there's a lot of community love for it. So Ancient Beasts is still on our list of expansions to remaster. Right. You having a look, Mr. Sage? The mummies are coming out. I was thinking this does actually quite benefit someone that's more craft focused. Trade in some mummies. Fair. But yeah, I'm curious if anyone's taken on or grabbed the Reaper Classic and 5th edition yet, because obviously we've been working super hard behind the scenes to bring you all this expansion, and I want to know what you guys all think of it, because we've been playing with it quite a bit internally, and I think just one of the things that really stood out to us is how much the extra cards that the Reaper brings to the game really opens it up. Ooh, there's a dragon. I don't like my chances. You know, when like 5 minutes ago, where I was like, oh yeah, let's put in some tough stuff. It's not as fun when the tough stuff then attacks me. Then it just makes me sad. I want to get some mummies. Beat up some mummies and get some more craft. Right. Sage targeting a player. Rude. Just rude, to be honest. Let's reroll. Maybe not rude. Maybe not as rude as I thought he was. Also, what do people think about the new 5th edition minis that we've done for the Reaper Classic? Our art team put, again, quite a bit of work into making the tiny models, because it's something that if anyone's played both the 4th edition and the 5th edition version of Talisman, you'll know that they are different sizes. So we actually had to redo them for the 5th edition remaster, which was quite a long process, but I think it's worth it because it means that you still get to see those 3D models on the board, which is quite cool. So, Odysseon says, here's an interesting thought about the editing facilities. When you introduce the Cataclysm expansion, for example, will we be able to include the new shop cards, but disable the Denizens mechanic, for example, and keeping the traditional board layout? I love the new deck editing facility, and for some expansions, it's a particular mechanic beside the deck that is undesirable. So, we have not started looking at the Cataclysm, so I can't. It's difficult for me to use that as a specific example. But what I can say, also, realise that I'm like shrinking down as I'm talking. What I can say is when it comes to giving players the option to customise the game how they want to, we want to make sure that there's as much of that as we can afford to put in. We don't want to completely break everything. But if we have the ability to make it so that you can, like you said, use some of those shop cards but disable the Denizens mechanic, we want to be able to offer you that. So obviously from a technical point of view, we'd have to figure out exactly how that would work, how we would make it so that you're not putting cards into the adventure deck that don't have anything to relate to. But yeah, basically, that's the kind of thing that we're thinking about. That's the kind of thing that we're definitely keeping in mind. So yeah, in an ideal world, that is what we'll do. But like I said, we haven't looked at the Cataclysm yet. So I can't give you that as a definitive, like, yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. But yeah, like there's quite a few cards and just mechanics in 4th edition, especially in expansions, where there's like certain cards that people enjoy the cards, but they don't enjoy either the loops they have to go through to get them, or some of the mechanics just aren't people's favourite, which is fair. So I think being able to give players the ability to customise that more is what we want to do. Like, for example, the with the Highland expansion, the treasures that you can get for defeating the end boss in that, like in Classic Edition, the only way you can really get those is by reaching the end of the Highland. But we'd want it so that in 5th edition, if you want to have them just in the adventure deck, go for it. If you want to have it so that the treasures get replaced by something else, go for it. Ooh, let's move the Grim Reaper. Where do I get to move him? He hasn't been moved yet. Could put him on me, but that seems like a... I don't want to be killed. Yeah, especially seeing as I have the Dance Macabre ending on. Probably not the best idea, so let's take him to the tavern. Yeah, and stuff like the Woodland, being able to customise what destinies are in the Woodland expansion, I think is going to make that expansion much more enjoyable to a lot of people. So it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. Right, Knight versus Dragon. Fantasy Classic. Will he survive? Oh, 6. Nice. He's saved by the armor. Right. Shrine. A shrine is fine. It was fine. Apparently you're not allowed to have shrines anymore. Definitely quite liking the new Reaper. It sits well in the intersection of familiar from 4th Digital Classic and still fitting to 5th Digital. Good to know, because I think that's exactly what we were aiming for. We didn't want it to feel like we just shoved an older expansion into 5th edition, but we also didn't want to make it feel like it was completely unrelated to the original expansion. Oops, everyone's having a bad time. Ding dong. Yeah, we wanted to make it feel like, oh, this is still the Reaper that I know. This is still the expansion that I remember and have fond memories of. But we didn't want it to feel jarring against all of the 5th edition content. We wanted it to like feel natural, right? Like we wanted it, I think I said it in a previous stream. We wanted to make sure that it felt like this is what the Reaper would be if it was designed from the ground up for 5th edition. And I like to think we've done a pretty good job. My troop are just holding off for a few of our favourite expansions before making the switch, but the editing / customization is definitely the huge draw for us. But yeah, like I said, I think I said at the start of the stream where I talked about like how the Reaper Classic launch is going. But I think we knew that there was a certain group of players or a certain demographic of players who, you know, for them, they knew what they wanted from Talisman. And yes, the base game is great. They're super happy with the base game, but for them, the experience of Talisman comes in those expansions. And without those expansions, it becomes a bit of a harder sell. So we fully knew that, you know, every single time we add a new remastered expansion, we're going to get a wave of new excited players, which is really nice to see as well. Like, I know we've got some of the other people on the dev team playing some online games of Talisman Digital 5th Edition now, just so there's like play against the devs, make sure everyone's having a good time, that kind of thing. Right, 3. I'll lose a life. I do only have 1 life left. I did not pay attention to that. That is not ideal. Yes, and something else that's important to note while we're talking about expansions, for anyone that doesn't know, because I'm shouting about it everywhere that I can, if you already own the Reaper for Talisman Digital Classic Edition, no matter where you got it from, if you got it from Humble Bundle, if you got it on Steam, if you got it on mobile, no matter where you got it from, all you need to do is sign into your Nomad account on the Classic Edition and Digital 5th Edition, and you will get access to the Reaper Remastered without having to pay an extra penny. You still have to buy the base game for 5th Edition to do that, but if you already own the Reaper, you will get this new remastered, super shiny, super cool 5th Edition version at no additional cost. And we're going to be doing that with all of the classic remastered expansions. So when we bring out City, when we bring out Dragon, Dungeon, whatever 4th edition expansion we bring over, if you own that original, you're not going to have to pay anything extra. I'm not the only one low on life. Alright, I need to get myself out of danger. What is the best way for me to do that? Probably go to the woods. Well, I could pay a fate to go move up to 6 spaces. Yeah, let's just make ourselves a little bit less likely to die. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, so I know for a fact, because I've been keeping an eye on the how things have been going today on launch day, that there's actually a large number of players who have picked up 5th edition now that the Reaper's out, and then we've seen them obviously sign into their Nomad account in 5th edition from 4th edition. So there's quite a lot of people that are taking advantage of that access to the remastered expansion, thanks to that carryover, which is great to see, because that's exactly what we wanted to happen. We wanted to make sure that everyone that's supported us by purchasing all those old expansions, like, this is a way for us to say, look, thanks, that purchase that you've made previously for that old Reaper expansion, that old classic expansion, have the remastered one. Like, we wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for you. So let's go chill in the graveyard. Let's pray. Let us pray. I'll get in some fate. What's wrong with that? Yeah, so another thing is, as we add more expansions, and obviously as we add alliances, which is coming later this year, we are going to be adding more customization options for how to play Talisman. Because obviously with the alliances expansion, that's a co-op expansion, and we were trying to work out how to make sure that works nicely with everything else. It's a bit of a new experience for us, making a co-op expansion in Talisman, but we're excited about it. We've already had quite a few games here in the Nomad office, which has been quite fun. Random question that I just realised, and now I can't think if it was asked / you mentioned it. Will the 5th edition have a weekly trial like the 4th does, with more things are on the way? Of course. Ah, yes. So, just to clarify for anyone that doesn't know, at the moment in Talisman Digital Classic Edition, every single week we have a rotating free-to-try expansion. So every week we have an expansion that, even if you don't own it, you can play with it in any of your games. So it just cycles through all the different expansions that we have. At the moment, because 5th edition literally has the one expansion in it, that isn't a feature in 5th edition at the moment, because it would just give you the Reaper for free, which, you can do that if you sync your account, but we're not going to be... let me just think where I want to go. Let's go to the Mystic. Yes, but in the future, once we have added much more to 5th edition, we're going to be seeing at what point, once we hit a certain threshold of expansions, and once we hit a certain threshold of content in 5th edition, that we can offer it as a weekly rotating free trial, something that you can try every single week, then we will adjust that. But for now, it doesn't. In the future, see what happens. Like I said, I imagine we will hit just like a certain threshold where we'll go, okay, yeah, this actually makes sense. We've got so many expansions that we want people to try every week, that it's easy to justify us offering that. Yes, I hope that answered your question. Ooh, Grim Reaper. Is that it's tonic or it's tonic? First question. It's tonic says, good morning, want to stop by and tell you that I love the direction of Digital 5th, with the custom decks being my favourite addition. Thank you very much. First of all, I will pass that on to the rest of the team, because, like I said, we are a very small team here at Nomad, so any kind of words like that always are very, very nice to hear. I guess the custom decks, like, for me as well, like, I really enjoy using the custom decks. For anyone that hasn't watched it already, I actually did a stream with some really cool community members last week, where they'd put together a custom deck and built like an entire story around the contents of the deck, which is really cool. You know what isn't cool? Getting eaten by a dragon. I've got a lot of fate. That doesn't save me. Ouch. Yes, we're actually working on a feature. Not sure when it will be available, but it's something that we're super keen to get working. That will allow people to share their custom decks with each other, because at the moment it's just you make your own custom decks, they're yours. Yes, you can play them in online games, but we want to have the ability for people to make their own and share them easily. So we're trying to figure out how best to do that, because there's a couple of ways we could do it. We just need to figure out always the best. But yes, that is a feature that we are currently working on, which is really exciting. And everyone seems to be having a bad time. I'm also having a bad time. But something that I've learned from playing a lot of Talisman is that it sometimes doesn't matter if you're having a bad time, as long as everyone else is having a worse time than you. That still wins. Just. It's a gift. I would rather have life, but hey ho. It was really fun to see Tom roll and fail against death in a region Death said none shall pass. It's true. It's very true. Ironically, I was talking about how excited I was for the Reaper expansion, and then the Reaper himself was like, no, you're too excited. I need to take you down a notch. Okay, that's not ideal. I don't have a follower. I've been raped. I've been Grim Reapered, and that is pretty sad. I'm not happy with that. But hey, that is Talisman. Look, Glenn, you just wade into the chat, start talking about how the Grim Reaper needs to put me in my place. What happens? Grim Reaper does what he does. A couple of pals and I have been creating a deck for each session, with each of us having the ability to choose additional adventure cards to add or take away from each category. I think games feel very personal and exciting. The flavour of the game shifts ever so slightly with simple changes. Very close game that adds so much depth. No, that's good. I'm glad you and your friends are having fun with it. I think that's one of the things that we knew was going to be appreciated. Once we started adding expansions, it's not just a case of, oh, okay, well, you can now play with the Reaper expansion on or off. Like the Reaper expansion adds, I think it's like 130 total new cards. When you add up like the adventure cards, the warlock quests, the new spells, all the different cards that it adds. And even if you just look at it as, oh, the Reaper Classic adds 130 new cards to use in the deck editor, that's so many new like customization options that you have for how you want to play the game. Like, it's not just, like I said, it's not just turn the expansion on or off. It is, cool, we can now make it so that there's these cool cards from the Reaper expansion either added, taken away. You can replace cards from the base game. So like if you think the dragon's not cool enough, replace it with a miser dragon. yeah, just the extra options it gives you are very fun. Let's go to the ruins. Right. Feeling alright about that. I'll take a standoff. If it means I don't die, I'll take a standoff. Because I am not feeling that full of life at the moment. Everyone's having a bad time. Thanks for tuning in, Glenn. Appreciate it, as always. Yeah, because I know that a lot of people enjoyed the legendary decks in Classic Edition, you know, as a way to make the game more challenging, or add a bit more tension to the game. And it's funny how just adding the deck editor means that people can basically make their own legendary decks. Like, if you want the challenge to go up, put in some cards that will really mess you up if you draw them. You can take the challenge down if you want, and give them some more helpful cards to the adventure deck. Like, it still keeps that random element of Talisman because you don't know what you're going to draw, but it means you can tailor the game. Like, if I was playing a game of Talisman with someone who had never played it before, for example, the ability to take out some of those harsher cards is really good. Like, I really appreciate that. What have we got? Sage. Yeah, let's have a fight. See, in the future can't help you if I smack you in the face. Alright. So I do have the change of fate house rule on. So if I spend a fate, I at least know that it's not going to be the same result. So 3 out of 5 gets me a win. I like those odds. I like those odds. Play the odds, my friends. Let's murder a sage. Sorry, my friend. I'll take a spell. I'm happy with that spell. We'll work on an Ups All Dragon deck at the moment. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, like, when we're looking at the different expansions that we want to remaster, the Dragon expansion is one that we know people want to get their hands on that adventure deck, just because it's got a load of really tough dragons in there that people are going to be excited to add to their decks. So yeah, it just adds a whole new layer of customization it is really good. And I'm slightly biased, obviously, because I work for Nomad, but I do genuinely think that it adds a new layer of Talisman that's quite fun. Right. Let's roll dice. And let's go to the graveyard. I've got 2 life, so I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Let's get a fate. That seems like a good idea. Also, anyone who, I just looked at the time, anyone who hasn't picked up 5th edition yet, and you're still on the fence, we are currently about to end our Steam Super Talisman sale, literally in less than an hour. So if you want, I've got no gold. I can't do any of that. So if you want to pick up 5th edition, If you want to play with the Reaper Remastered, Reaper Classic deck, now is the time to do it because the discount ends in literally an hour. So get on it if you haven't already. We also have a bundle with the Reaper. Ouch. Sorry, Sage. I feel like I started you on that train of sadness. Let's see where I want to go. I don't want to fight the Miser Dragon. Strong edge card. Potion of Strength. Cool. Oh, yes, could I put one of each? Alright, 2 till the end of turn. Cool. Don't need that right now, so that's fine. But it's good to have. Good to have. Right. I think as this knight fights this goblin, I am gonna call it here on the stream. But you've all been very lucky and you've had double stream day, which is a very big rarity, but it's launch day for the Reaper, so we wanted to do something a bit special. Special equals more of my face. Before I go, question from It's Tonic. Has there been any thought about towards doing some Twitch integration for Talisman Digital 5th edition overlays, etc.? Honestly, no. It's not very high on our priority list, so it hasn't really been thought about. Maybe at some point in the future, but for now I think there's more features that we can look at that will improve the game experience for a lot more people before we start getting into more niche stuff like that, like in terms of how many people actually play Talisman on Twitch. Like, I like it because I play Talisman on Twitch because I'm doing it right now. But I think there are just a couple more features that I think people will generally appreciate more. Alright, let's find this mummy. Expansion means streams. Maybe we should get more expansions. I've got good news for you. You aren't getting more expansions. Obviously I work at Nomad, so there's no way I wouldn't know this. But I don't mean to alarm anyone. I know what the next remastered expansion is going to be. We've already decided on the next remastered expansion. I can't tell you just yet, but I was too busy chatting. And I got turned into a toad. Of course I did. I get to roll the Grim Reaper at least. Yeah, I know what the next remastered expansion is, and I'm currently waiting on some approvals to be able to tell you all, which is very exciting because it means that the speed at which we'll be bringing out more expansions should hopefully increase. Like we had a couple of teething things with the Reaper just because it's the very first expansion that we've done for 5th edition, but we're hoping going forwards the cadence of remastered expansions is going to be a bit quicker, which is exciting for you all because it means more cool remastered stuff. So yes, keep an eye out on all of our social medias, sign up for our newsletter, go join our Discord, all that cool stuff, because you want to be there when I tell you all what the next remastered expansion is. And in the meantime, thank you very much for tuning in for my second stream of the day, special launch day stream. I enjoyed all the bits where I turned into a toad. And yeah, I hope if you haven't picked up 5th edition already, digital 5th edition already, this has enticed you to do so, because enticing people to pick up our games is literally my job. So thank you everyone massively for tuning in, and I will see you all probably later this week. Thanks everybody.